Good afternoon, everybody. If I could ask you to be seated, we'll get started with the ceremony. In my script, it said I would have to ask you several times, but apparently everybody's being very cooperative. I appreciate that very much. Good afternoon. It's wonderful to see you here today. I haven't met most of you. I've met many of you, but not most of you. My name is Kevin Carman. I'm the Provost and Executive Vice President, and it's my privilege to be with you today and to be your Master of Ceremonies for this wonderful event. So I'm relatively new to Laramie. As you know, Susan and I bought a house east of town out on Pilot Peak Road, and we have a corral and a barn, and we don't know quite what to do with that, but we have neighbors that do, lots of horses out there. We're really enjoying Laramie and the state of Wyoming, and I look forward to getting to know more of you as the year progresses. We will begin today's program with the special recognition of our outstanding faculty who've achieved major milestones in their careers, and this includes obtaining tenure, perhaps one of the most significant milestones, 5-year fixed-term rolling contracts, and promotions for both our tenure-track faculty and our non-tenure-track faculty receiving 3 or 5-year fixed-term rolling contracts. Following this portion of the program, we will receive annual reports from our Faculty Senate, the Staff Senate, and the Associated Students of the University of Wyoming. We will then conclude with President Seidel's delivery of the 2021 State of the University Address. Due to the COVID-19 situation, I understand that last year you were not able to meet in person, and special tribute to our outstanding faculty. I also understand that we are not done with the pandemic, and I respect and appreciate very much that I see that you're adhering to our mask policies here on campus. You may have speakers at the podium here that are more than 6 feet choosing to refuse to remove their mask while they speak, but we appreciate you adhering to our policy during this gathering. So, but as I was saying, last year we weren't able to have this event, and we were, as I understand it, there was some sort of virtual recognition of faculty, but we wanted to recognize both the 2019-20 honorees as well as the 2021 honorees. And so we will begin with the 2019-20 group of honorees, and we'll then move on to the 2021 group of honorees. Assisting us today in this portion of the program will be our Senior Vice Provost, Tammy Benham-Deal, and Vice Provost for Strategic Planning, Ann Alexander. I would ask all of the, I think you're already over here, so perhaps this isn't necessary, but all of the 2019-20 honorees to be ready to come forward to be recognized, and then join President Seidel, Faculty Senate Chair Adrian Fring, and me when your name is called. We have an X for you here. We'll ask you to stand on that. We'll take a group photo, and we have a memento in recognition of your accomplishments. And then you'll continue on off of that side of the stage, and the next person will come on. So at the end of each section, for those not in attendance today, there will be a slide with their information, that is, those individuals who received a promotion but were unable to join us today. So would President Seidel, Dr. Fring, Dr. Benham-Deal, and Dr. Alexander, would you please join me, and we'll get this show going. So before we get started, I will say one more thing, that one of the things that I've enjoyed most in my career is being able to celebrate the accomplishments of faculty as they've moved through the ranks. It is a long slog. It's a lot of hard work, and when you get to that point, it's very meaningful personally and professionally, as well as to your family. So I want to preemptively congratulate all of you on the time, effort, and commitment that you have put in, and also for your tremendous contributions to this great university. Before we move on to the annual reports from our senates, the Office of Academic, did I get ahead of myself there? Yes, I did. I got ahead of the script. Well, I just lost my job as the MC, so I'll be moving on to other things. Sorry about that. So we're going to go right on with the honorees then, and then we'll continue with this other thing that we're not talking about right now. All right. So.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to start by recognizing our faculty who have attained the rank of professor. So if you retain the rank of professor in the academic year 1920, we'd like for you to come forward. We'll start with Conchita Dominique. Conchita is a professor in the Department of Modern and Classical Languages.
Joseph Hollis, Professor, Department of Chemical Engineering.
It's kind of like commencement. We'll get our timing here shortly. And next would be Quen Ju, otherwise known as Arthur, professor in the in the Division of Kinesiology and Health. Oh, thank you. Oh yeah, there they are, but in person. Our next slide shows those of our colleagues who received a promotion to full professor in the year 1920. Hopefully they're joining us online. That would be Jonathan Brandt, Andrea Burrows, Danielle Cover, who also received tenure as well as promotion to full professor, Andrew Garner, Jacob Goheen, and John Hoberg.
In addition, Ransong Liu, Tara Rigetti, who also received tenure, John Ritten, Michael Miller, Clifford Reeby, and Benjamin Wilkowski. And last but certainly not least, Jason Williford.
And next, we'll honor our faculty receiving tenure and/or promotion to associate professor in the academic year 2019-20. We'll begin with honoring Saman Ariana, associate professor in the Department of Chemical Engineering.
Kyle DeYoung, associate professor, Department of Psychology.
And John Saska, associate professor, Department of Ecosystem Science and Management.
Crystal Seeger, associate professor, Department of Music.
And next is Linda Thernstrom, associate professor, Department of Economics.
Ariel Ziebrick, associate professor, Department of English.
Joining us online includes Robin Berry, Erica Belmont, Jared Bushman, Catherine Carrico, Rebecca Karen, Allison Doherty, and
Michael Edson, Kyan Jones-Ritten, Elliot Hulley, Becky Lynn, Evan Johnson, Allison Luby, and
Allison Mann, Nancy McGee, Lena Myron, Andrew Parsekian, Jill Proctor, and Carrie Sondergroff, as well as
William Stump, Liping Wang, and Chen Su.
Next, we'd like to recognize our faculty receiving fixed-term rolling contracts and/or promotions in academic year 2019-20. First, we'd like to recognize Cynthia Hughes, Associate Librarian, University Libraries.
Lawrence Schmidt, Librarian, University Libraries.
And joining us online are Shannon Elbecki, Nikki Baldwin, Christy Boggs, Matthew Burkhart, Nicole Crawford, James Keel, and
Laura DeLozia, Rick Fisher, Jeff Edwards, Tiffany Hunt, Bridger Fates, and Jennifer Ingverson Nyman. Excuse me for messing up your name. And
we also have Christopher North, Benedicte Soya, Brian Recupero, Sarah Torbert, Scott Schell, Jeremiah Vardaman, and Caitlin Youngquist.
And now for 2021. Faculty attaining the rank of professor will join us on the stage next, and that will begin with Uli Adelt, Professor, Department of History and American Studies.
And next, we'd like to honor Michael Dillon, Professor, Department of Zoology and Physiology.
Kent Drummond, Professor, Department of English.
And next, Lamia Goul, Professor, Department of Petroleum Engineering.
Next, Sandy Sue, Professor, Department of Communication and Journalism.
And next, Jonathan Prather, Professor, Department of Zoology and Physiology. And up next, Eric Woodall, Professor, Department of Criminal Justice and Sociology. And finally, Jing Zhao, Professor, Department of Chemistry.
And joining us online are Michael Cheadle, Patrick Johnson, Patrick Kreiser, Anthony Denzer, Jesse Gatlin, Scott Lake, Teresa Lehman, Ali Anjamiliari, Daniel Levy, Lydia Nana, Melissa Murphy, Zhang Niao, Christine Porter.
Faculty receiving tenure and/or promotion to associate professor will begin with DPAD.
Aaron Bush, Associate Professor, Division of Communication Disorders.
And Jeffrey French, Associate Professor, Department of Atmospheric Sciences.
Allie Kelly, Associate Professor, Department of History and American Studies.
I like it. I like it. I want a mask like hers. Next, we would like to honor Jamie Snyder, Associate Professor, Department of Criminal Justice and Sociology.
Next, we'd like to honor Temple Stollinger, Associate Professor, Haub School of Environment and Natural Resources.
And next, Pejman, I've been practicing Tamasabi. I didn't do it right again, did I? Did I do it? Was I close enough? Okay, great.
And Kenneth Jeng, Associate Professor, Department of Accounting and Finance.
And joining us online, David Christiansen, Brandon Gellis, Nicholas Crane, Esther Gilman Kerr, and Jed Dockstader.
As well as Jennifer Harmon, Zachary Lebo, Huvan Isyan, Vardges Huvan Isyan. I was so focused on the last name, I apologize. Elisa McIlvain, Patrick Koneski, Lauren McLean, and
Stephen Newbold, Zoe Pearson, Justin Piccarelli, Linda Van Diepen, and Karen Vaughn.
Next, faculty receiving fixed-term rolling contracts and/or promotion in 2021 include Bo Bingham, Senior Lecturer, Department of Communication and Journalism.
And Andrea Graham, Senior Research Scientist, Department of History and American Studies.
Christopher Hilgert, Senior Extension Educator, Department of Plant Sciences.
And Meg Van Bellen Wood, Senior Lecturer, Elbogen Center for Teaching and Learning.
And joining us online are Katie Christensen, Bridget Decker, Robert Coulter, Paddington Hodza, Charlie Cruz, Jason Katzman, and
Mary Keller, Paula Keene, Jenny Killender, Abby Perry, Tawana Plum, Eric Quaid, and Osana Wasilik. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Let's see, where are we on the script here? Getting through those, I think you have the rest of my script there.
Do I have the rest of it?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to offer again my congratulations to all of those who've received promotions and tenure. As I was saying out of line before, it's one of the most significant milestones in your career, and I remember well those days of achieving those promotions, and it's a very meaningful time. So congratulations to you again, and I look forward to even better things ahead. So well done. So before we move on with our annual reports from the Senates, the Office of Academic Affairs would like to make a special presentation. I'll ask Senior Vice Provost Tammy Benham-Deal to make that presentation. Tammy?
Well, about 18 months ago or so, a small team of folks in Old Main got together to begin talking about what were we going to do as COVID reared its ugly head. From that point forward, there have been hundreds of faculty, staff, and students who have given unselfishly of their time, many spending way more than 8 hours working on the university's response to the pandemic. Some working 12 and 14 hours a day, and that includes the weekends. Their intent, as our intent was and continues to be, is to try to keep this university as safe as we can while fulfilling our academic, research, and service mission. We'd like to recognize 4 academic professors/administrators who I cannot tell you completely what they have done for this university. You would not know unless you walked in their shoes. The first person we'd like to honor today was, unfortunately, I don't think he was able to be with us, mostly because in addition to his professorial role, he is now the director of WWAMI. And I believe that some of our folks from the University of Washington Medical School is here on campus. And unfortunately, they're in a meeting that Brant was not able to get out of to come join us. But Brant served a critical role. Many of you know that he's an epidemiologist. We relied on his scientific knowledge to help us understand pandemics. He participated in a number of different committees, including a very important one, and that continues today, in the regular communications with the State Department of Health. So we would like to honor Brant for all of the work that he has done and continues to do. I'm not going to get emotional here. Next is DJ, otherwise known as David Jones, Dean of the College of Health Sciences. If one person can do 3 jobs, full-time jobs, at the same time, it's David. Not only has he served as your Dean of the College of Health Sciences, and he's served in an executive role for our partnerships up in Casper and Cheyenne with our family practice centers. It is because of his leadership that we have had a COVID testing program implemented. He gets a lot of criticism from people who are annoyed with some of the requirements and how long they have to stand in lines, etc. But he takes all of that with grace and kindness. And I just think it's really important that we recognize all of his leadership and efforts 24/7 to help us test for COVID. David. What can I say about Kim Kruger? It's through his leadership that we had all those vaccine clinics last spring and through the summer. Without his leadership, I don't think we would be where we are today in terms of making the vaccine accessible to all university faculty, staff, and students. Can't tell you how many times both he and David, they're on the front line. Some of us can sit back at our office and say, oh, great job, you're doing a great job. It came to roost for me whenever I volunteered on one of the days early this fall when we were doing the mass testing and we saw about 1,800 people come through, knowing that some of those folks would test positive. These guys are on the front line. Cam, thank you so much for your leadership, and we'd like to honor you today. Sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah, excellent. I want you to raise your hand. Well, maybe I better not do this. I was going to ask you, this is rhetorical, don't do it. I was going to ask you to raise your hand if you have participated in COVID testing here on campus and received your results within 24 hours. Okay, just do it in your head. If that's you, you owe a great deal of thanks to this next man. Dr. Will agreed. Will is the director of our vet lab, and as many of you know, that's where all of the assessment, the testing after you spit, takes place. It's because him and his team that we receive such rapid results from our phenomenal testing program. And so we couldn't end this program without honoring him. Will.
So I wasn't here during those dark days, but I happen to know from many sources that Tammy and Ann were also critical components of that team and put in those long hours. And so I don't have a flowery speech for them, but would you please give a round of applause for Tammy and Ann and their selfless contribution. And I also want to add my sincere appreciation for the 4 extraordinary people that we were able to recognize today. Your service to the university is outstanding and has paid tremendous dividends, so thank you again. Okay, so now we will move on and make sure I'm back on to the script here. Next on our schedule are updates from our Faculty Senate, Staff Senate, and associated students of the University of Wyoming. To begin, I'd like to invite to the podium Hunter Swilling, the president of ASUW. Hunter, would you come on up? I've had a chance to get to know Hunter over these last couple of months, and ASUW and the student body are extremely well served by his leadership, so please take it away.
Thank you for the warm welcome, Provost Carmen. Last time I was giving a speech at Convocation, I took off my mask and it snapped right off, and I had to sit maskless through the rest of it. Luckily, I don't think that happened this time. I'll keep my remarks fairly brief. I just wanted to go over some of the accomplishments that ASUW has done in the past year, even during COVID times, and also elaborate a little bit on some of the things that I think students are facing these days and what we need to do as a university to begin to move forward and truly become a 21st century institution. So first of all, as you all know, mental health is a strong and always important topic for students, especially in light of COVID-19, which really did have some devastating impacts on student engagement, mental health, and just overall state of being for our students. So ASUW has taken some steps to address this. The ASUW created a health and wellness committee, which incorporates multiple partners across campus, including the Psych Clinic, Wellspring Counseling Center, the University Counseling Center, and many others, to help address and come up with cohesive ways which we can tackle the problems of mental health facing our campus and our community. Additionally, we have allocated over $75,000 to additional mental health resources from our own student fee that we levy against students every single year to continue to support these efforts. And yet still significant challenges remain in this area, and it is essential that we continue to take student mental health seriously, as well as mental health of our faculty and staff. This is especially true for those who lack the experience in the real world, like many of our freshmen and sophomores even sometimes do. So I think that we need to do more than just provide resources to these students. We also need to have a cultural shift of recognizing the importance of mental health and saying that it's okay not to be okay and that you can be supported. We often try to, it's called the waddling duck syndrome, where it looks fine on the surface, but underneath you're furiously paddling just to keep your head above water. And we need to really expose that and say that it's okay not to be okay, and that there are support and resources for you there. And I think ASUW has made some strong steps in that region, and with the help of many other partners throughout campus, Student Affairs, the Wellness Center, tons of others that I've already named, we can continue to make progress in that effort, but we do need to have a laser-like focus on it, especially in light of some recent events. Furthermore, ASUW was responsible for expanding a free menstrual product program across campus. So now, at least in one women's bathroom across the entire campus, free menstrual products are offered. We also continued our work with the Food Security Task Force and allocated significant funds to address food insecurity on this campus. The UW Food Share Pantry is now up and running in collaboration with the Dean of Students Office. ASUW gave significant funds to that effort, and it is off and running. Survey results indicated that about 37% of our students are food insecure, meaning they literally don't have enough food to eat. And it's hard to focus on academics or other things when you don't even know where your next meal is coming from. We also worked with the Sustainability Coalition to allocate funding for shares from Acres Student Farm, so they grow food and that it distributes to students. We also piloted a meal swipe sharing program through Washakie Dining Center, again with some of our friends in the Student Affairs Division. So students can now donate 3 meals a semester to this bank, and then students who are in need of those meals who don't have a meal plan can apply and get those loaded onto their card, and then they get free meals through Washakie. So that's a really great effort. We also have lobbied at the state legislature for a bill that would create a biased crime reporting system in the state of Wyoming. This was moved to the interim, and we are continuing some work in collaboration on this effort. We awarded $85,000 in total scholarships to students, including $30,000 to freshmen specifically, and we are continuing this effort and increasing our efforts to give scholarships to students in light of some of the hardships, especially financial, that COVID-19 has inflicted on our students. We also worked with the Office of Graduate Education to create a student ombud office, which was talked about a little bit in Academic Forum last week. And we raised $127,000 that we will put towards creating an endowment for international students that will be able to give some scholarship money to each and all of those, because we noticed that there were some inequities in how we gave students money in light of federal and state aid that was available after COVID that international students could not access. So this will slightly move the needle to being a more fair and 21st century institution and really increasing our global engagement like we need to do. So those are some of the major accomplishments of ASUW, and a major shout out to my predecessor in this role, Riley Talamontes, who was the president before me, and also the vice president last year, Courtney Titus, who are responsible for a lot of these efforts since sort of my term just started, as the school year just started. But in light of these accomplishments, we do think that significant challenges remain, but we look forward to tackling these in the future. Restructuring will impact students, staff, and faculty alike, and we need to be conscious, intentional, and aware of these impacts. Things that are deeply important to students will be impacted. Things like advising, course offerings, number of faculty per student, and this has ramifications across the entire institution. For example, faculty morale it affects students as well. If the faculty doesn't have the really vibe and idea that they are leading a 21st century institution, or I keep using that phrase, but teaching at the highest level that they possibly can, are supported in that effort, then students feel that as well. So we emphasize the interdisciplinary nature of this university and saying that staff, faculty, and students must all be supported. And that's why I've really been happy to work with Chris and Adrian over there in sort of deepening the ties between ASUW staff and faculty senate. All right. Furthermore, just as a closing remarks, I would continue to urge us to take efforts of diversity, equity, and inclusion seriously, especially in light of some resignations that have hit multicultural affairs, and with Chief Diversity Officer Emily Monago leaving for a different institution. We will need new leaders in this space to create a campus that is welcoming to all students. And I look forward to being part of that conversation, and ASUW and student leaders being part of that conversation through many of our identity-based student organizations, multicultural affairs, and all of the resources that we have available to that, but pushing that is something that we have to do. Enrollment is declining, and we need to make this a safe and welcoming space for all of our students in order to really combat that decline. According to some of the survey that was issued last year, about 19% of students who did not return after being in the university for 1 year did so for a diversity, equity, or inclusion related reason. So that is a significant challenge that we will have to tackle in order to ensure that enrollment remains high. But despite all of that, I look forward to tackling the problems facing this university together as a body in an interdisciplinary manner. Thank you for the opportunity to give some remarks.
Thank you, Hunter, for your extremely thoughtful and insightful remarks. It's really gratifying to know that ASUW is so engaged with the needs, the mental health and physical well-being, and thinking about international students and being deeply engaged with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's really gratifying to hear your remarks. Our next speaker is Chris Mackey. She serves as president of UW's Staff Senate. In addition to that role, she may be the most important person on campus as she manages the assignment of space, which is indeed the final frontier for every university. But Chris, I've enjoyed working with you. Look forward to your remarks.
Thank you so much, Provost Carmen. I want to commend staff for their hard work and dedication to the university. Their pride in the students, the faculty, the departments, and our daily operations has made this university what it is right now, even through this pandemic. We have made it here because of you. Thank you. Often though, being thanked is not enough. Sometimes we need action. Our role in Staff Senate is we're encouraged, excuse me. So one of our roles as Staff Senate is encouraging our staff senators to speak out to our constituents, the rest of the staff who are often unheard or feeling underrepresented on campus. And through this, we're hearing more and more of these concerns, but we're also hearing opportunities for growth. With this, we have been requesting items that will assist with retaining staff in their current job market. We've been working actively with human resources to identify how to best address staff concerns from salary to the working environment. We're renewing the request for a staff ombudsman to mitigate staff concerns. As you know, the role of an ombudsman would be to help people and the university. This person can help staff identify the right person to bring some of these staff issues to, whether this is an HR issue or a Title IX issue. A confidential, informal, and neutral independent alternative that is needed to help with these issues, as we are not often seeing them handled through either our human resources or our current lines, including diversity, equity, and inclusion. Another item is to collaborate with Human Resources to request an update for an annual review process, including a 360-degree performance evaluation. Also having conversations with administration regarding professional development opportunities, career development, and ways for professional advancing staff through growth and engagement and training for our leadership. Currently, there's also very little reward for staff committing their careers to the university at this time. I am so proud of all of you faculty who have been here and you have been tenured and promoted. We do not see that on the staff side, unfortunately. Also, looking at the current pay that has been reduced for staff as we see increases in our retirement and our healthcare insurance being taken directly out of our paychecks. We're also looking forward to working with the salary and compensation committees to examine the staff compensation levels. Also in the past year, we did work very well with ASUW on the Food and Security Task Force, and we did also provide 10 scholarships for staff. So while we're working very diligently on all of these things, we're asking for additional contributions in the 2-13 process. We're working hard on the upcoming the holiday market and the staff recognition day in the spring. Staff Senate looks forward to shared governance and working with the administration to help mitigate these concerns. We want to make this institution a very proud place to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for representing the folks that really make this university tick, that make it work. Without the staff, we would certainly be nowhere. So thank you so much, and I can tell you again that Chris is a very powerful advocate for the staff, but also for the entire university, deeply engaged. Our next speaker is Adrienne Freng. She's the chair of the Faculty Senate. I've gotten to know Adrienne before I was even on the job, and I know that she is passionate and deeply committed about this university and guiding it through difficult times. So Adrienne, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Kerman. Just wanted to take a minute because we're here to celebrate. And so just wanted to take a minute as someone who's been through the process to congratulate all of you once again, for promotion, tenure, and fixed term. It's a hard process and it's a great accomplishment. And so once again, congratulations to you. It has been really great to be back on campus and to have the normal hustle and bustle of the fall. And so it's wonderful to be able to do this, and our thanks go out to the many people who worked to make that possibility that we recognized earlier. Over the course of the last year, Faculty Senate has been involved in numerous activities, but our main goal was and still is to ensure a positive and effective learning environment for our students as we navigate the impacts of COVID. We are not done yet, obviously, and so faculty spent an inordinate amount of time last year trying to make sure that we could provide the education to our students, even given all the constraints that we had. Additionally, we spent a fair portion of our time working together with the administration to complete the revisions of the university regulations. This year, we anticipate continuing to develop and improve those policies and procedures that correspond to those various regulations. Those regulations, along with the policies and procedures, provide us with a solid policy base as we continue to navigate the inevitable changes that come with all the transitions to various different new administrators. As we move into the new academic year, we face not only budget reductions, but the president's plan for reorganization of the university, which I'm guessing he'll maybe talk about in a little bit. Since last spring, we've been engaged in many discussions, and we continue our conversations with the administration over areas of diverging thoughts about what and who we should be as a university, and the process of how we implement these ideas as we move into the future. Along with our other stakeholders, we need to come to a consensus on what it means to be the University of Wyoming and how we will get there. To address the number of these challenges in front of us, we hope to do a couple of different things. We hope to continue our efforts to engage in a meaningful and equitable shared governance across the institution, a process that includes faculty, staff, and students. And we have enjoyed working together with the other senates as well. Continue to build a strong leadership pipeline through Faculty Senate, which increasingly has become increasingly important as we continue to face difficult times. Address declining morale. Over the course of the many transitions that we've experienced as an institution over the last 10 years, campus morale, not just faculty morale, has continued to decline. With each new administration, we have reinvented ourselves, resulting in sort of an institutional identity crisis, but also a faculty identity crisis in terms of what I have coined sort of this presidential vision whiplash and what it is that we want to be once again as an institution. This has created a lack of stability, which has undermined faculty's feelings of worth and purposefulness for the institution, as well as their ability to contribute to the well-being of our institution beyond the labs and classrooms, which we hold so dear. We also look forward to developing mechanisms by which to retain, value, and support our excellent faculty. Historically, we've done a very effective job of hiring top-notch faculty, but we need to develop structures that allow us to continue to support and attract the very best faculty, recognize that we have outstanding faculty currently here on campus, right? And develop ways to ensure that faculty want to continue to call the University of Wyoming their home. While these are challenging times and considerable goals to accomplish, the one thing that remains constant is our faculty commitment to students. And we will continue to work together with administration to make that all a possibility. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Adrian, for your thoughtful comments. Now for our last speaker of the day, it's my pleasure to introduce President Ed Seidel with a little license here. I've known Ed for many years. The reason I'm here, I dare say, is because we met each other when we overlapped at Louisiana State University, what seems like some time ago. And Ed was the director of the Center for Computation and Technology, and I was the dean of the College of Science. And I helped Ed spend his money. He had money for positions, but he really established a program that is still thriving today and brought computation and technology to LSU in a very powerful format. It was in January, I believe, of last year that my phone rang, and I saw on caller ID that it was Ed, and I still had his phone number, and I hadn't talked to him in years. I sent him a congratulatory note when I heard he got the presidency here, But we had a nice visit, and he commented that there was a search going on for the provost here and asked if I might be interested. I knew and know that Ed is a visionary and challenges convention, and that it would be an interesting and challenging and exciting experience to work with him. And so, President Seidel, I welcome you to the podium, and we look forward to your remarks.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks to all of you for truly heartfelt, thoughtful remarks. I really appreciate it, and we're all taking in input from all of you, and I'll get to that in a minute. But let me start with a more cheerful, kind of more upbeat. Good afternoon. It is the first time I think I've really met with you in a personal format like this, if you can call sitting distance and with masks on and so on as a personal format. But it means a lot to me to be able to see you all in person, and I will be doing a lot more of that going forward. We'll find ways to do that. I want to thank you, Provost Carman, and I want to officially welcome you in your new role as the Provost and Executive Vice President of Academic Affairs. I'm really excited to partner with you as we go forward to build this university into what I hope we can all ultimately feel is the best-in-class 21st century land-grant That's true to the Wyoming roots. And there's a lot of you have heard me. I won't go on in depth, but there's a lot packed into that phrase, and it means a lot, both about we are from Wyoming, we have a lot of value to bring back to our state, but we have to move also forward in ways that are very powerful, profound new technologies and ways of teaching and so on. We're going to embrace them and find ways to move forward. So before I get into the details of the state of the university, I want to recognize a number of people. First of all, I particularly want to recognize the faculty that we have already recognized, but I want to just make a personal note. I, like many of us here, have been through the process, and I'll just never forget how much it meant to me when I got tenure, and I still have a note, on a little scrap of paper from my 7-year-old son who said, "Dad, I'm glad you got tenure." And you know, I still keep that because that's like that little scrap of paper means as much to me as almost anything else. So let me just have everyone give a round of applause again to the faculty. I'd also like to recognize a group that's very important to this university who give extraordinary time and energy, and that's our Board of Trustees. And I'm going to call on just everyone by name, and then I'd like you just to join us in a round of applause for them when we're done. So would you all stand as I call you? Jeff Marsh, chair of our board from Torrington. We can also applaud after everyone as well. John McKinley, vice chair of the board from Cheyenne. Michelle Sullivan, secretary of the board from Sheridan. Kermit Brown, I don't see Kermit. Is Kermit here? Kermit from Laramie. Okay. Thank you. The treasurer of the board. Dave True, our past chair and current member of the board from Casper. Brad Bonner from Cody. Dave Fall from Gillette. Elizabeth Greenwood from Pinedale. Brad LaCroix from Newcastle. Carol Linton from Jackson. Macy Moore from Douglas. Laura Schmidt-Pizzato from Rock Springs. And ex officio board members Hunter Swilling, Jillian Balo, Sandy Caldwell, and Governor Mark Gordon. Those of you here, please stand. I feel very well supported and feel I have very good partnerships with the board. I just want to thank you for all of your efforts. So I also want to express my appreciation to the administration that's helped first welcome me to the university and works extremely hard on behalf of the university. In particular, I want to recognize members of the cabinet, the leadership team that works most closely with me on a daily basis on behalf of UW, and to the entire faculty, staff, and students. And I mean this from my heart. I'm impressed every day with the energy you put into this place, into your personal work, to your integrity, the grit that exemplifies Wyoming, and to the dedication that you exhibit every single day here. You're truly the heartbeat of the university. So let me also say I'm feeling increasingly well acquainted and supported by members of the entire state, particularly elected officials, various university boards and boards of the community colleges, as I'll talk about in a few minutes. Also, our advisory boards that help guide the university and have been quite active in providing input into our plan, which you'll hear in a few minutes. So we're really grateful for all the support that you provide to the university. Now, there are many people that I would like to continue to thank, but I don't want to be here all day with all of you. I just want you to know that I appreciate everything everyone is doing for this university. But I have one special thank you that I want to give. When I accepted this role, and I'm honored to be in this role as the 28th president of the University of Wyoming, I came here with a great deal of optimism and enthusiasm and excitement. And in spite of the challenges we faced, in the last year. And I think those of you who know me know that I carry these values with me every day. I am bullish on this university. I have enthusiasm and I have energy, and I'm going to continue to bring it every single day. I'm committed to the institution for the long term. And I know that I'm not alone, and that you are all committed to this university, just as I am, and to the state, with a passion and a dedication that I really haven't seen in any other institution in my career. And so thank you for that. But there is, to me, a very special member of the faculty that I would like to single out, and she's sitting right over here. She's surprised that I would mention her, but as is often the case, when half of a couple accepts a new career opportunity, the other half has to think, assess their own dreams, their goals, aspirations, and make a choice to take an opportunity to support their partner. It entails leaving behind friends, family, ongoing projects, and more, and moving to a new community for perhaps uncertain opportunities, which she has done. It sometimes means giving up in part what one has worked hard for years to achieve. In this case, after building a highly distinguished career with huge impact in many areas, from physics to computing to education. So I want to share with you today a special recognition from my partner, longtime collaborator, and if I can brag about her just a little more, she's a highly cited, distinguished scientist in her own right. A fellow of the American Physical Society for work in black holes and multi-messenger astronomy, a winner of the Gordon Bell Prize in computing, and among other accolades. But for those of you who know her, she is the genius in our home, and she is the one with the good sense, Dr. Gabrielle Allen. So Gab, would you just stand for a second so I can recognize you today? So the start of the academic year is always an exciting time on a university campus. One can feel the energy as we welcome new faculty and students who join us for the first time, and welcome back faculty and students who may have been away during the summer, been engaged in activities, perhaps an intense research activity or a visit to another university, and hopefully just some downtime with your family and your loved ones. The campus has been busy preparing for this fall semester for months, and it was great joy to me personally to be able to welcome the new students into convocation over in the basketball hall just a few weeks ago. That was really beautifully done by the student affairs team. So I see Kim Chestnut is here somewhere, but thank you for that. It was really a wonderful event. And also our football team, which we barely had a chance to see last year, has a perfect record so far this year, 2-0. Gab and I were thrilled that we were able to attend the NIU game last week in DeKalb. And as many of you may remember, I came from Illinois, so I had to be a little discreet in celebrating our first road win, but I did taunt my friend, NIU President Lisa Freeman, just a bit, who did graciously invite me to the box, and we had a lot of fun. They're quite interested in collaborating with us, by the way. But I have to tell you, it's really wonderful to see the brown and gold win, and I think we'll be doing a lot of that this year. In the 14 months since I've become your president, a lot has happened. In some ways, I feel almost today, seeing you in person, that I can truly begin my presidency here at the university. The past year has been unlike anything any of us have ever experienced. July the 1st marked the first one-year anniversary for me here, but like all of you, those months were marked by milestones that none of us ever expected. Remote education, remote work, virtual commencement ceremonies, COVID testing, vaccinations, big budget cuts, and a list of other issues. While a major focus has been for me to meet and get to know the university and the state, I don't have to tell you how hard it has been wearing a mask, social distancing, Zooming, and being able to travel only minimally, at least during the first part of last year. And most importantly, it hindered my ability to get to know you all, which I know is essential in building trust and shared purpose as we embark on really difficult and significant changes for the university and our community. But I have visited with every college on campus, many faculty, student, and staff organizations. I've traveled to numerous Wyoming communities, including Last night, I was in Sheridan. The night before, I was in Buffalo. We've been using the university plane a lot as we get around. I visited with every community college, and I've met with really many of our legislators, and I think it's really beginning to pay off. I'm getting to know people, they're getting to know me, perhaps trust me a little bit more as coming from the outside, and I think we're gonna be making progress in this next year. Even with the restrictions imposed by the pandemic, it has been critical to connect to the citizens of Wyoming, and I've worked very hard to do that. So, like you, I'm longing for a return to many of our more traditional experiences and opportunities. So, as some of you know, we are building a home south of town, and we anticipate hosting many events there as soon as we can move in later this fall. We're aiming for around November the 1st. And I hope very much to welcome every one of you to that home, which I see as a really a statement of a public access as a public university, land-grant university has. And I look forward to welcoming you there as we get to know each other and to build our university future together. So, those are preliminaries. I know I've gone on for a bit, but I want to now move on to the state of the university, truly. So to begin, I want to highlight some accomplishments from a multitude of areas across the campus that have happened in the last year. And of course, every day, you know, we're having difficult challenges. We're wearing masks. We thought maybe we'd be out of it, but you know, there are many challenges. The budget cuts, the 2-13 process. But let's just take a step back, and I've asked each dean and vice president to send some comments on accomplishments they've made. So I'm going to just report a number of these. I mean, it's just a small selection of many things that have been accomplished. So I'll start with academic affairs. Provost Carmen reports that they've launched Navigate, a data-driven advising platform that will allow the university to guide students towards timely graduations. We're going to work very hard on student outcomes going forward, particularly graduation and retention rates, improving them as best we can. This is an important tool. Another important tool in this is a new program that we're preparing to launch next year called Saddle Up for the fall of 2022. It's an intensive academic orientation program for incoming freshmen, which has been shown to dramatically increase retention and graduation rates while closing achievement gaps of underrepresented minorities and particularly first-generation students. And while these are being planned, we're scaling up the program called Cowboy Coaches, a mentoring program that was launched last year with 12 coaches, and I met with them, and I was just blown away by who they were, the dedication they had, and the main recommendation they had was to get more of them. So we are doing that. This year, we're building the team out to a number of 30 coaches who can serve as mentors for incoming freshmen, and next year we hope to reach about 100 Cowboy coaches. So, just a few samples of what's coming in from academic affairs. From athletics, and as you all know, this has an absolutely fantastic first-rate program led by AD Tom Berman, who reports, for example, University of Wyoming student athletes achieved the highest cumulative GPA in our history with a GPA of 3.23. I think that's extraordinary. Some of you know my background. I wish maybe I should have been an athlete and would have helped my grade point average if I'd been mentored and supported the way we support our students, but I didn't have the the talent to join a team, unfortunately. So, athletics has also managed COVID extremely well. The only Mountain West Conference school that's been prepared to compete in every single competition. So that's out of the entire Mountain West. So that's really a testament to the leadership that we have. And finally, generating over $1.5 million in the Wyoming Now campaign to support student athletes during the COVID period. So a few examples there. On other achievements in fundraising, this is really significant. Ben Blaylock and the UW Foundation report a record one-year performance on the management of the endowment with a return of almost 36%, and an endowment value as of June 30th of $794.7 million. That is absolutely extraordinary for a university of our size and class, and there is a lot of room up in that as well. So we will be focusing a lot on raising multiple kinds of revenue streams and foundation dollars, private philanthropic dollars, as we try to grow the university in spite of constrained budgets. So we also last year had nearly $48.8 million in private giving, and they've also launched a new digital initiative that will provide a lot more information on managing activities at the foundation. That should make it even easier to really track and go after targets of opportunity for fundraising. In research and economic development, we lost Ed Sinikowski, but we have interim VP Diana Holm, who shares that in the last year, in FY20, we were able to have $93 million in research expenditures. Again, for a university of our size, that's good. Now, we can grow that enterprise, and we are committed to doing so. And so, in fact, we're looking to build towards an R1, a Carnegie R1 research classification. That's the highest classification that you can achieve, very high research activity. And the research office is focusing on increasing staffing levels and upgrading various systems, electronic systems and otherwise, to better support the growth of the research enterprise. And in times of budget cuts, it's a unit that we held harmless, and we're working very hard to find new ways to grow that enterprise to help support research and scholarship broadly across the university. So, in addition to Cowboy Coaches and Saddle Up, Kim Chestnut, VP for Student Affairs, reports that in response to campus calls last spring, Student Affairs worked with the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion to create the Bias Education and Engagement Team. And the office also reconstructed an existing position to create a program coordinator for restorative justice. And as you have probably seen in the last year of communications from me and others, we are very committed to supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion at the university. I'll have more to say about that in a few minutes. General Counsel Tara Evans and her team have been very busy and report that, for example, they lead the No More Initiative, a public awareness and engagement campaign focused on ending domestic violence and sexual assault. Partnering with those who work in inclusive excellence by supporting initiatives with the Black 14, empowering the Black Studies Center, enhancing the School of Culture, Gender, and Social Justice, and engaging with those in the LGBTQ communities. And with a number of activities like that, they've been extremely active to help support this. They've implemented something very important, but often not so appreciated at the university, which is enterprise risk management, which will allow us to strategically mitigate numerous categories of risk as we go forward, including financial, operational, compliance, and reputational. And having worked with a very active office in my past history, I know how important this is. This is really worth a lot to us, and I really appreciate the efforts there. And the last point from the General Counsel's office, they've been advising us a lot on intellectual property and economic development and innovation initiatives as we begin to get more serious about this as an activity, as we try to bring more value back to the state around economic development, which we are expected to do as a land-grant institution. This is more and more across the country the norm, and including bolstering the technology transfer office and helping to formulate a UW Ventures activity that will help us fund companies that might be supported by or driven by faculty, students, or staff, postdocs here, and so on. So a VP for Information Technology, Robert Aylward, has been, as you can imagine, extremely busy in this last year. They spent a lot of their time on providing IT support to manage many challenges of the pandemic. For example, processing 250,000 COVID tests and then sending out almost or over 800,000 emails related to that, including the tracking of compliance for COVID testing. So that's a massive operation all by itself. Also, they've upgraded over 110 classrooms to enable faculty to teach in this high-flex environment, and have upgraded 1,200 Wi-Fi access points across the campus. These are things that you don't see, but they're essential for the operations, and in spite of it all, they've managed to do those things. Communication, marketing, and engagement are very important for the university. Chad Baldwin shares that the world needs more Cowboys events, which I have attended already this week too, that I mentioned a minute ago, that feature the president, alumni, important leaders in every community, usually visits to high schools, and I visited a lot of high schools. The best fun I had last year was the physics department or the physics class in Evanston High School let me talk about black holes for an hour. So if you'd let me, I might start that now, but I don't hear any calls for that. So anyway, the point is they're fantastic events, and we will have done every single county by November the 5th, 23 counties. So thanks for all of your efforts on that. Also, helping to provide information about COVID-19, particularly promoting vaccinations. I've been working very hard, as many of you have, not nearly as hard as many of you have been, on getting information out about vaccines. But through these efforts, we've nearly tripled the number of students that report vaccinations. I was very pleased to see how many students self-reported vaccinations. What was about 2/3 of the students roughly have vaccinations. We've got some more work to do there, but still we've done relatively well. So finance and administration. We have, in order to save funds, we work very hard to save money without hitting academic programs. This is something I really want to stress. We've refinanced outstanding debt that will save about $18 million over the next 20 years in terms of bond payments. So these are just lots of things behind the scenes that are helping us save our as much funding as we can to devote to academic programs and other things here. Also, they've worked very hard to consolidate a number of services around housing, dining, transit, parking, catering, the university store, the golf course, real estate, copy and print center, things like this. Services that you need, but are being run in the past, typically like a number of sort of small businesses. Try to centralize them, look for efficiencies, and I think that's an important part of our campaign to reduce costs and preserve as much as we can around academic programs in the face of budget contractions. So, Bill Mai, Vice President for Government Relations and Operations for the time being, has reported that they've prepared a lot of the campus and supported COVID-19 activities, particularly, and I want to really have a shout out to the sanitation efforts from the custodial teams who are in the front lines every day, particularly in the beginning when we weren't sure whether it was contact or airborne or what have you. So we know more about it now, but they've been there keeping us safe. I want to thank them. Completed over 7,000 work orders in the last year and about $16 million in project work, and then many, many capital construction projects across the campus. For example, the science initiative that we've heard about, the West Campus Energy Plant, and a number of other activities as well. But for me, the most important thing has been getting to know the legislature, which is extremely important in this state, as you all know. And so I've spent a lot of time being mentored and tutored by Bill, who, as you know, is well known to the legislature, supporting me as well as to get to know, for example, the Joint Appropriations Committee, the Joint Education Committee, and so on. And it's just been essential work that is going to pay off. Diversity of Equity Inclusion, Diversity Equity Inclusion, the Office of Diversity Equity Inclusion reports, among other things, the creation of the Search Equity Advisors in partnership with Academic Affairs to make sure when we do searches, whether it's for faculty or for staff positions, that we are well prepared and trained on inclusivity and equity in the search and the hiring process. Really important, and we'll be focusing more on that going forward. So, from colleges and schools, I don't want this to get tedious, but I want to have just a few more minutes to report out some of the activities. So, in arts and sciences, Crystal Seeger in the music department received funding from the Wyoming Department of Education to enhance technology and music education initiatives. Brad Rettler in philosophy and religious studies published an op-ed in Newsweek, which I read on Bitcoin. I eagerly read that article, just a couple of examples, with Bitcoin being so important in the state. Agriculture and natural resources. This is really quite cool. The college presented to Governor Gordon blanket number 1 of the limited edition blanket knitted solely from wool produced by University of Wyoming sheep, raised at the Laramie Research and Extension. And I will say, we have bought one ourselves, and they are beautiful. The College of Business shares that the college was fully reaccredited in 2021, and I met more than once with not only the college but with the accreditation group, and it's a distinction that's earned by only 5% of business schools globally. So congrats to them. And also, the Ethics Club and the students of the sales program raised funding for the Spark Tank 2021, which was used to invest in a number of community resources. The College of Education. We have a new dean in the College of Education, Scott Thomas, who reports Lee Hall, the Wyoming Excellence in Higher Education Endowed Chair in Literacy Education, was named one of the 30 higher education influencers worth a follow, so with clearly a national recognition. So in engineering and applied science, Pejman Tomasevi, did I get it right? I tried. Thank you. In petroleum engineering, recently received a couple of very prestigious international awards. Congrats for that. And the Wyoming Advanced Blockchain Lab is working with the Secretary of State to develop an application that allows applicants to become what are called DAOs, Decentralized Autonomous Organizations, that apply to list in Wyoming. That sounds very technical. There is a fantastic opportunity for the state around blockchain, and this state is a national leader there, and the university is stepping up to make sure that we can really take advantage of that. The college also worked with women students to create the newly recognized student organization called Equality in Computing, and I'm very excited about that as well. From the Halb School, the first 4 Carol and Ramon Tomei Scholars started at UW this year, a program that was recently endowed by the Tomei Foundation to recruit promising leaders in natural resources and environmental study. I had a wonderful dinner with them. I will say one of them came to the university specifically because of the fellowship, was considering 2 other universities until they got this invitation to be a Ramon Scholar, and is here. So it's just an example of the kind of impact that this is happening from outside the state. Health Sciences reports that the faculty in school and students in the School of Pharmacy and the School of Nursing and WWAMI have assisted, get this, and we heard earlier, but here's numerics to this, providing 16,000 COVID vaccinations. 16,000. I got one of them. I must say, I felt really empowered after I spent a day in bed recovering from the impact, but that meant I was being protected, so I was happy for that. So the Honors College reports that they're piloting a program of paid internships with partners on the campus, as well as with businesses and nonprofits around Laramie. So I'm winding down here, but I want to be complete. So the UW libraries report that the official rollout of the Digital Scholarship Center, and libraries are among the leaders, and our library is one of them, in digital scholarship, which is I could give an entire lecture on it, but it is helping the university move forward in being more digital, but also helping establish the university as a leader in digital delivery of scholarship. A few other points I will make. El Bogan Center for Teaching and Learning celebrating its 30th anniversary next week with a 2-day workshop. Very excited about what they're doing and about how the experiential learning will take place in our new science initiative in partnership with them. That is an amazing activity that will increase outcomes in terms of learning, particularly in STEM areas. From UW-Casper, the Health Services Administration concentration has launched its first class this fall. And finally, from my list of reports from across the university, the UW School of Energy Resources has grown its Wyoming energy-focused research portfolio, bringing over $3.5 million in a number of new awards from externally funded research programs. So these are just a few examples, quite a few examples of extraordinary accomplishments of the last year. I think it's clear that we have a strong foundation to build, but we have challenges to overcome, and I want to turn to those now. So when I came here, I had been working, I feel, my entire career on developing a vision for what a 21st century land-grant university is like, as have all of you. And I think that together we are building an institution that we can be really proud of going forward. And my commitment to you is to hear you, react to proposals we've made, and as you'll be hearing from us, we're listening, and you'll see some modifications due to your input coming in. But the world is actually changing profoundly and rapidly, and universities have to change with that world, and University of Wyoming is no exception. The digital world is profoundly impacting all aspects of our lives, our economy, our scholarship, our educational capabilities, and on ever shorter timescales. The problems we face in society are increasingly complex, requiring grand challenge interdisciplinary solutions that blend skills and approaches from areas as diverse as social sciences and humanities to engineering and agriculture, usually all of them together in some way. Universities are expected to be stronger engines for innovation and economic development, to drive advances in our economy and our well-being more than ever before. And finally, our world and our state are increasingly diverse, globally connected, and with turbulence in our society that we haven't really seen in about a half a century or perhaps more. These are the reasons why we formulated these so-called 4 pillars that you've all contributed immense time and energy in helping us understand what these 4 pillars really mean for the University of Wyoming. That's guided much of our planning in the last year, and with the ideas that the university should become more digital, more interdisciplinary, more entrepreneurial, and more inclusive. The working groups were established last year for each pillar. I'm sure you all contributed to a number or perhaps many of those activities and many recommendations. I want you to really to take this in. Many of the recommendations that ended up in our plans that we promoted presented to the board found their way directly into those plans, recommendations from these committees. But at the same time, of course, the state faced budget crisis and challenges that have led to the need for significant cuts at the university, on top of previous rounds of cuts that came not long before I arrived. These cuts have collectively added to pressure to external forces of change that impact all institutions of higher learning. So, for example, the ones I've just been talking about. The university can't continue straight on the prior path that we've been on. We just can't do it. We cannot keep doing exactly what we've been doing the way we've been doing it. We have to pivot. And so that's what this proposal is all about. And while immediately on day one, when I came here July 1st, I was hit with I knew this was coming before the day one, but not long before day one, $52 million in biennial budget cuts that are needing to be implemented. We had to slash spending on day one just to make ends meet. We were able to do that. With help from the trustees, we were able to get through that first year, but that wasn't long-term, it wasn't strategic, it was just how do we deal with the crisis we're in. And I want to thank everyone for bearing with us as we managed to do that. Now, at the same time, we created a number of working groups, including starting last summer. I had a budget reduction and revenue generation working group. A number of deans and administrators were, before I even got here, charged with beginning to think this through. We began to create these new groups that many of you spent a lot of time on, looking at ways to be as strategic as possible going forward to address both the challenges of 21st Century Land Grant University and to find ways not just to cut costs, but also to do things that would help us raise revenues. We have to think a lot about new revenue streams. The university is, in terms of the fraction of its funding that it receives, actually very strongly supported by the state. Now, state funding is declining. We have got to find ways to raise new revenue streams, as many other universities have. And so I'll come to a few of those points in a minute. But we have to do this and do some new things. We can't just cut things. We have to think about we've been going in this direction, but there are major pressures on universities to become more competitive, to provide better value to the students and to the state, and we've got to do some new things. So hence our proposal. So I'd like to take a couple of minutes now as I wind this down to review where we've come in the last year and to emphasize what I think are positive steps that we've taken on this very challenging backdrop to move forward. So first, let's talk about building our team. The best advice I got when I came to the university was from my former boss, University of Illinois President Tim Killeen, who said, prepare for year 3. So kind of a little cryptic, but the key part of that year 3 preparation is building the team for the future. And so I've been working very, very hard on this. Starting with my own office, the president's office, I came into a situation, some of you know, the office was literally starting from scratch, not only with me, but literally the entire office has been built from zero. Everyone in the office is actually new, who's formerly in the president's office right now, new in that office. So with initial help from Deputy Secretary of the Board, Rosemary London, and then Chief of Staff Mary Ivanoff and I have been working very hard to build that office to support the university. And we're not perfect yet, and we're still working sometimes by the seat of our pants, but we're working very hard, and I want to give my hat is off to Mary for all of the efforts that she has made to help build that, and you can look forward to some further improvements as we go forward. But more importantly, we were faced with many administrative changes in the last year. So first and foremost, we have held a vigorous search for a new provost, and I think we landed probably the most experienced executive vice president and provost that the university has ever had. Kevin Carmen, who you know by now and you've seen today, who oversaw the building of Nevada from a Carnegie R2 to R1 institution, as well as increasing student success and diversity metrics, as well as making it a Carnegie Engage institution, just among other skill sets that he has already developed that he can bring directly to the University of Wyoming. And his role as executive vice president, the first such title at the University of Wyoming, is a meaningful statement that he is the primary executive overseeing the academic enterprise at the university. I want to make that statement really clearly. So I think we're a good team. He has got the expertise that I think we need. Likewise, we've just launched a search to replace Ed Sinikowski as the Vice President for Research and Innovation that a number of you will be involved in. And Diana Holm has agreed to support us in the interim as the interim vice president that oversees this entire area, and she's doing a wonderful job as we start our new search. To support economic development and innovation, which is going to be an increasingly important activity here, not just because I think it's important, but because the state thinks it's important, and we need to bring back as much value to this state. I'll tell you, just ad-libbing a comment here, 70% of our graduates leave the state. That's not good for the long-term prospects for the state. So we need to work hard proactively with other institutions across the state to create more opportunities in the state through entrepreneurship, through corporate partnerships, and so on, in order to help really build back the economy of the state. And that's the rationale for doing this. Steve Farkas has been appointed initially as Assistant VP for Economic Development, and we're looking at growing that office and expanding his portfolio as soon as we can. I hope it's been clear to everyone here that I am absolutely committed to supporting and strengthening inclusion, diversity, and related efforts on campus. I want to thank Emily Monago for her efforts leading the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. And I've asked a group on campus to advise us on next steps on how to best build those efforts in the future as Emily moves on to Georgia Tech in her new role there. We've also faced a number of other vacancies in the last year, including government relations. The first few weeks before I got here, I learned that we would be losing our leader of government relations. So VP Bill Mai, who's well known to the state, knows it inside and out, has taken this role on. In the meantime, I anticipate working further to help build support for work at the federal level. Very important, especially given the impact of the so-called U.S. Innovation and Competition Act, USICA, that was passed in the Senate. If you're not tracking this, the Senate and the House this year both voted to pass bills that would double the budget of the National Science Foundation, the Department of Energy's Office of Science, adding also funds to the Department of Commerce to support innovation activities. And so we are working hard to make sure that our university is configured and to be as competitive as possible for those kinds of funding streams, not only alone as an institution, but also in partnership with others. And I'll say a couple more words about that in a minute. We've also worked hard in the last year to recruit very strong deans, including John Kaprowski, Dean of the Halb School, Camille Akpudu, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, and Scott Thomas, the Jack L. Bogan Foundation Dean of the College of Education. And I will tell you that gift from the L. Bogan Foundation to name that deanship played an important role in recruiting Scott, and we will work hard to try to raise additional funds for additional deanships as we really build our team for the future. So there's one other person I want to single out here, someone named Tom Peterson. Some of you will have gotten to know him at least by Zoom by now. He's the former Dean of Engineering at Arizona, former provost at UC Merced, and he was the assistant director at the National Science Foundation, overseeing all of engineering, all national programs in engineering for 4 years. He's an expert, he knows universities inside and out, a national leader, and he has agreed to help us as we think through the College of Engineering changes. Some of you I know very concerned about engineering. I'm going to just say right here, I am absolutely committed to building the strongest possible College of Engineering going forward. And Tom is going to help us after this year recruit a new dean next year. So, what do I see on the horizon? I see a number of things that I hope you will agree, at least these should be goals of ours. A university that is more responsive to needs of our 21st century students and their success. Talk to a lot of students about what they feel about their education, what they think maybe was missing. A lot of that feedback goes directly into our thinking and our plans right now. I think we will be better poised to impact the state's economy. If we're able to do that, I think we'll be able to make stronger cases to the state legislature that it is very important, essential to support this university even more going forward in the future. We will be better positioned to partner with higher education and businesses across the state for impact. Again, very important, and you'll see, as I describe in a minute, work we're doing with the Wyoming Innovation Partnership with all the community colleges. Also, this is essential for us to be better positioned to raise additional revenue streams from federal agencies, to be more competitive for grants, whether it's in science and technology and research or in social sciences as well, or if it's from foundations that might support the arts and humanities. There are lots of them out there. We will be more aggressive. We will be ready to go after funding opportunities. Corporate partnerships. We can do so much more with corporate partnerships that will give our students direct experience, give companies more confidence in the university, and they can be a great source of revenue to help support activities at the university. And then, of course, we're looking to be as efficient as we possibly can with fewer departments. That was part of the rationale for some of the changes we've made. We have a lot of departments that were very small. We're too small of a university to have that many departments. That was part of the rationale for some of the proposals that we've made. And so to give them more critical mass, perhaps a little bit larger classes, and to be as lean as we can administratively overall. And I'll tell you, I've been in a lot of universities. We're about as lean as they get. We are very lean, and I recognize that, but that's the funding situation that we're in right now. So this is a very tall order, and I understand how tall that is. And I've been hearing from a lot of you, and I read your input, and it's been coming in different ways, and I truly appreciate it. In order to get the best possible plan to achieve these goals, in the last year, we launched many working groups, and I want to actually go through them just to remind, because sometimes I hear people say, well, what was the process for this? Well, there was a lot of process around this. Working groups of faculty, staff, students working tirelessly for months and months to advise us on how to move the university forward, including the 4-pillar working groups that all wrote long reports chock full of recommendations. A Blue Sky group that we got together with a number of people every Thursday evening, and the rules of the game were, what do we really want to do if we could at this university? Blue Sky, the rules are, don't tell us how much it costs, tell us what we want to do, and then we see what among those things, what can we actually achieve? How can we find ways to achieve those goals? We also had a strategic portfolio review group that worked very, very hard for months and months to look at every single program in the university. We conducted dozens and literally dozens and dozens of listening sessions, not only with faculty, with students, but with stakeholders through alumni associations, with industry, with people across the state, with legislators, and so on. And I want to thank everybody for efforts throughout this incredible process. And then using all of this input, and it was a lot of input, we developed our team over a period of a few weeks in the June timeframe, a preliminary plan for the future. And most of the parts of that plan actually came from suggestions from some of those groups in various consultations we made. But that's not the plan we presented to the board. That was before with the board meeting in July. So we brought that plan to the deans, faculty senate leadership, and others who provided immediate feedback, and I can tell you we did get immediate initial feedback. Modifications were already made before we took that plan, then that is still a work in progress, that tentative plan that was brought to the Board of Trustees in July. That plan is undergoing extensive review. Many, many committees have been formed. Some committees are providing very strong feedback on they think we can do this better, or we think we should do something different. And we are listening to all of that. And we've had also a lot of input from people across the state, including the Joint Appropriations Committee last Thursday, and lots of people. I mean, it's an amazing amount of input. We're really trying to take it all in. And I can say that based on all of this input, and this is a strong message to all of you, that there will be some significant modifications to that plan that we presented in July, and the provost and I expect to announce a number of changes very soon, including at tomorrow's board meeting and then afterwards as well. So stay tuned for that. But just the strong message is that we listened to you as we built these plans. We listened to you immediately afterwards, and we're listening to you now, and we will continue to listen as we go forward. So the final presentation on this is at least scheduled now for the November board meeting, and so based on your continuing input, we will have a plan that we present to the board for consideration at that time. So I'd like to take a couple more minutes, though, to talk about what were some goals of that plan that we proposed. So I've said these before, but I want to put them in bullet form. First of all, we need to make the university as research active as possible for a land-grant university of our size. Now, this may sound unfair comparison, but I will just point out MIT is a land-grant institution of about the same size of students as we have. And of course, they're one of the major research powerhouses of the world. So size itself is not the impediment. Notre Dame is another university of our size, significantly larger research portfolios. It's also largely an arts and letters foundation university. So we can grow research revenues, and that will be important to support more graduate students, faculty research programs, and so on. So that's important for us. So this includes in this plan then, moving towards a Carnegie R1 research status. And with the federal funding that I've talked about poised to double, and this is a tectonic shift in funding profiles in the United States. I was at the National Science Foundation for 4 years. We were grateful. I was told once by the Office of Management and Budget, flat is the new doubling. Well, now they're actually talking about doubling. And it's actually passed in both House and Senate, so they just have to come together, if only Congress can get its act together. The willingness is there in a bipartisan way. Secondly, increasing community engagement. This is really central to this university. Every one of you, I think, is passionate about being engaged. I think we can achieve that status. That does matter. It's not just a merit badge. It matters in terms of recognition about getting attention, bringing faculty, and being able to do the kind of things that we do, perhaps getting additional funding. It's a reflection of the commitment that we have to this state. The next point, and it should probably have been ordered number one, is doubling down on student success. We are absolutely dedicated to our students. We want to make sure that when they come, they have a welcoming environment, they feel supported, they know where to turn to when they need help. The Cowboy Coaches is one example. Living learning communities and other things that we've been talking about building further will be another. So we're going to focus on student success. That contributes directly back to our bottom line, by the way. If students continue to stay here, tuition comes in, it's a factor in our ability. So it's that kind of investment will pay for itself. Having more impact, my final bullet here, this fourth goal, having more impact on the state's economy, both by enhancing programs that directly serve existing market sectors. And I think about market sectors as a person who did economic development for a university in my past. What market sectors are important to the state? Agriculture, tourism, energy and extraction. Those are important, but then thinking about, we have to create new programs that will help drive the future workforce, including digital literacy. It's essential for this state, and we're way behind in the state. And some people say, well, I like this idea of a school of computing, but do we have to do it now? Yeah, we're behind. So my feeling, and I think it's shared by some, not all, is that it is important that we focus on this soon so we can begin to have the impact. When I talked, I had a phone call with a Caterpillar vice president when I got here, and a number of other companies in the banking sector, in manufacturing, in agriculture, ADM, companies like that. What do they ask me? They ask me, are you training students in digital methods? Are you training them in artificial intelligence? Are you training them in areas that we need in our business? No matter what the market sector was, this is what they ask me. And it's a common refrain. So we can do better in these areas. Of course, the traditional areas are still important, but when I'm saying we need to do some new things, there are new things that we need to do. This is also essential for supporting entrepreneurship and new business creation. If we want students to stay in the state, we've got to take the bull by the horns and work on supporting the growth of new businesses. And I think that's just fundamental, or else we'll keep educating people who move to Colorado and Utah and Silicon Valley and elsewhere. So what are we doing to achieve these goals? Well, in addition to proposing some restructuring of our colleges, these were not random proposals. These were things that we thought about very strongly about scientific and scholarly coherence in colleges. So for example, the creation of colleges of engineering and physical sciences. You want a material science program that's top-notch? Well, you gotta have some physicists and some mechanical engineers and some civil engineers and some chemical engineers together, and it's administratively easier to pull them together. That's an example. That also will provide additional chances for funding from federal agencies as they receive more funding to provide to us. College of Natural Resources and Life Sciences, again, it's scientifically coherent. And then a College of Arts, Social Sciences, and Humanities. This is a common model. I know there are also common models, the vast territory of arts and sciences. I'm an arts and sciences person, and I truly value it as the core of a liberal arts education, a liberal education that we have at this university that we value. And I want to make sure that people understand that our intention there is to make that as strong as possible by providing a focus that can grow and flourish, and we're absolutely committed to that. So with these goals, then we propose some new things. A new school of computing, focus on the applications of computing, with joint faculty appointments across the university. So it is not taking money from Peter to pay Paul. It is an investment in the entire university. So there will be joint appointments with any unit that feels that they want to be part of the digital revolution, and I hope that includes all of you. So there are ways that we can pull together coherence across digital activities while maintaining and growing strengths in traditional areas of computing, computer science, electrical engineering, and so on. That's also essential to this. It will give every student in every major an opportunity to see direct applications of computing and digital technologies while making us more competitive for students, faculty, and grants, recruiting people. I've had already a number of students ask me, I'm thinking about coming to the University of Wyoming. Are you going to have a school of computing? I've had faculty recruits ask me that's important to them, not only from computer science or from physics, but across the university. This will make us more competitive for federal funding and for corporate partnerships. So there are many reasons why we're proposing this. Secondly, a new Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation that will have joint interdisciplinary activities across the campus, providing students in any major with the opportunity to be involved in working on projects with companies in an interdisciplinary way, or getting skills they might need to start a business. And then the not just traditional College of Business type curriculum, but with the support for entrepreneurship, with incubators that we will build across the state in collaboration with community colleges. So this, I think, is essential for our future. Providing also opportunities for our faculty from any college. And then a new program which is highly interdisciplinary but clearly hits a market sector of the state, the Wyoming Outdoor Recreation, Tourism, and Hospitality Initiative, or WORTH, that will help support the growth of what is really a key industry for this state. So then a few more items I want to mention here. In order to grow the research activity and scholarship across the university, we anticipate developing a few additional activities. For example, the creation of a graduate school. We have, in effect, what you might call a graduate school, but it's not formalized. So if we want to grow support for graduate students across the board, and this includes social sciences, humanities, science and engineering, also essential for Carnegie R1 status. That's not just for science and engineering, that is across the board. We need to have a graduate school. So we're talking a lot with the provost, or the provost is thinking a lot about how to do that. We want to bolster the Office of Economic Research and Economic Development, as we've already talked about. And that will help faculty be more supported in growing research programs. And this is another thing that some of you might not have heard much about, but we're working hard a little bit under the covers now, a new Presidential Excellence Initiative that's comprised of two components. First, we have a lot of endowed chairs across the university. Of course, we need more, but we have a number. They might be able to be reorganized in a way that would be more effective to bring in additional faculty or to help with faculty retention. And I know faculty retention right now is a key issue. So we're working hard with donors in the foundation to think about how do we best make use of existing resources that we have. And I mentioned that we have a nearly $800 million endowment. A lot of that is in endowed chairs. So we want to make the most effective use of it. And then we're working very hard to try to create a special fund for recruiting faculty in a competitive process to recruit research stars across the university. And I know we have budget crunches right now. At the same time, there are ways that we can find some funding, and I'm going to mention one of them in a minute. But the America Rescue Plan, we're asking for some funding specifically to help support rejuvenation of talent at the university and for talent retention and so on. So stay tuned for more on this. We're working very hard with the foundation, and I would say we are more aligned than ever between Old Main and the president and the provost with the foundation, and we talk a lot about the joint priorities we have as not just the foundation going off and trying to raise money for its priorities. Of course, they have ideas, but so do we, and we're working together, and you will see a very coherent program going forward. Also, partnerships with other institutions are essential for us, and I want to mention a few of them that we're working on. So one reason that's important for us is we can gain capacity by partnership with the university that does things that we want to do better, but we have things that are value to them, so have mutual value propositions. So for example, not just other universities, but laboratories. We're having regular, every other week meetings with Argonne National Lab. So some of you as faculty may have been involved in this. That's one of the major laboratories of the world that has incredible programs in energy storage and in, there's a photon source there. It's going to be the most powerful in the world. Digital supercomputer will be the largest supercomputer in the world at Argonne, and so on and so on. We have very good relationships. We can work together with them, and there are ways that can help boost programs that we have here in the short term. International collaborations with universities such as Cardiff University, which has already helped us with programs around computing and thinking about entrepreneurship and also environmental science. In fact, the Vice Chancellor of Cardiff University will be visiting us in the middle of November as well. We've already signed an agreement with them. There's a lot we can do together. Another example of some of you are in the social sciences involved with our friends from the Freie Universität of Berlin, just down the street from where I once lived. So even though I didn't know them then, I feel they were a bit of neighbors of mine almost. So they have strong programs in social sciences. So we can partner in ways that allow us to do things that we may need some help to bootstrap our way, and we will do that going forward. So international priority is very strong with me, and I think you all know this, but you'll hear more about it. So I know I'm really going long, but I can't help it because I got a couple more pages here. So I hope you bear with me. These programs and partnerships are really important, I think, for building the future of the university. And I want to say then that among those that I didn't get to yet, but this is super important for us, is right here at home, the partnership with the community colleges. So I have worked really, really hard. I called the presidents of all the community colleges before I got here to get to know them, to try to see, could we build an alliance across the state that goes well beyond merely the transfer of credit from the community college to the university. Of course, that's important, and great strides have been made before I got here by people like Kyle Moore and others working hard on the transfer agreements, and so that's improving. That's a great pipeline for us Our enrollment is down a little bit. We have got to bring it back up. So partnership with the community colleges are important. But what can we do beyond that? How can we build programs around things that impact the state's economy? And it's because of that focus on the state's economy and the workforce for the state's economy that the governor is so strongly supportive of this. I have flown with the governor to almost every community college where we spent a day talking about the Wyoming Innovation Partnership, meeting with business leaders, legislators, the community college faculty, and so on. And we have created this partnership now that I think is going to be fabulous going forward. And we've already submitted proposals for funding from the America Rescue Plan. In May, we put together a proposal for $126 million for mostly programmatic activities with the community colleges. Now, that was an early sort of, let's put this initial ideas together. Since then, we've worked very hard with them, and I think it was just 2 weeks ago now, we put in a first-year funding request to the governor's office for about $26 million, if you get the exact figure, $26 million, around some areas that would allow us to hire people. For example, the idea around entrepreneurship and innovation, to help us hire staff that would be able to provide structure for growing entrepreneurship programs with the community colleges, or the School of Computing. We've already started not only digital literacy, but a software engineering program across the entire state that the University of Wyoming is leading, but in collaboration with the community colleges and with Cardiff University. And so we would provide, if we can get funding from the America Rescue Plan, activities in spheres like that. So we have a very detailed plan now with deliverables that we promised by January if we were to receive funding as early as this month, which is technically possible. Probably it's going to take some time, but both the legislature and the governor are looking at these proposals now. So I'm very excited about that. Also, the Worth Initiative is part of it, and some others, also in energy. So, but over time, so there are some sources of funding that we might be able to use in order to bootstrap up some of these things. They don't last for more than 3 years. But the idea is to provide startup funds for this sort of new university collaboration with the community colleges that we hope will then allow us to bring in additional corporate partnerships, to be more competitive. We have research scientists with expertise in computing to work with faculty in any department here to apply for funding, whether it's the Mellon Foundation or the Sloan Foundation or the National Science Foundation. That's what we're after. So let me conclude, because I know I've gone on a long time, but I really appreciate it. I see most people have their eyes open, still looking, appreciate that. Based on all this incredible work, that includes the 4 pillar reports and the grand challenge reports. The grand challenges, I love the grand challenges that were developed before I got here. I've met with the teams. They're not forgotten. They will fold into activities as we carry out a new strategic planning process that will be led by Provost, Senior Vice Provost, I've forgotten your title now, Ann, but Ann Alexander, who helped so well last year as interim provost. There will be a strategic planning process that will help formalize these plans as we go forward, and you'll all have a lot to do with that. So I just want to finally conclude by saying I appreciate how well I've been welcomed into this community. It means a lot to me and to Gabrielle. And it's essential for us to feel that we're really part of this community. This is maybe my first venue to really talk to you in person. I hope you can hear there's passion in my voice. I've got ideas, but I need yours as well to make sure we do the right things. And it's a hard time for all of us, and I appreciate that you've been sticking with us, and I sure hope you'll be contributing as we plan the future of this university together as we go forward. Even when times are tough, and especially when funding is tight, I think it's time to be ambitious and bold and to look for ways to achieve our goals, not just to think about how we contract and get through this. We're going to come out of this as strong as we can, and I look forward to working with you to make that happen. So thanks so much, and go Pokes. I really appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed, President Seidel. That concludes our event. Before we end, I do want to acknowledge one person who put a tremendous amount of effort into making this happen. Megan, where are you? Megan Jones over here pulled this basically single-handedly, this whole thing off on very short notice, so please thank Megan and have a good evening. Thank you.